Good morning, I'm Jenny Davidson and I'm CEO of the Council of Single Mothers and Their Children. I'm here this morning in the beautiful grounds of Atherton Gardens Public Housing to talk about the government's hearing. It's going on this week into the redevelopment of the public housing towers across Melbourne. There are going to be experts talking about all sorts of issues this week and in June, including architects talking about the benefits of redevelopment versus pulling down and rebuilding, the environmental impacts, people talking about the impact of community relocation on all of the people that live in these towers, which is a significant issue. What I wanted to talk about is particularly the perspective of the Council of Single Mothers and Their Children from my 56 years of supporting single mothers who are raising children on their own. Housing has always been an issue for this cohort. But if you go back a few decades, there were many more single mothers like Anthony Albanese's mother and himself who were raised in public housing. The women that we support, the majority of whom are low-income families, are in the private rental market. Many of them are not able to buy houses, they're never going to have home ownership, but they're also never going to secure public housing unless they have complex intersecting needs. There simply is not enough public housing in Australia, and in particular in Victoria, which has the lowest number of public houses in the country with less than 3%. This redevelopment is important because these buildings haven't been maintained in such a way as to keep them up to standard. However, at the end of the day, it's on the government to ensure that the outcome is more public housing, not social housing, not community housing, which doesn't provide the same security. The land must be owned by the government, the housing must be owned and run by the government. Families right now are competing in the private rental market for the housing that they need for their children. It's increasingly unaffordable, and when you need a couple of bedrooms, you're directly competing with double income applicants to try to secure a home for you and your children. You often don't have security of tenure. You might move every year or more often because the housing is inadequate, the rents go up beyond what you can afford, despite the fact that you're prepared to pay more than 50% of your income and do whatever is required to provide a safe home for your family. And there is simply no security in the private rental market. We need to reform the private rental market as well. However, if we increase the public housing stock, it will take pressure off the private rental market. It will reduce the impact on families for whom there are no houses that cost less than 30% of their income. Families who rely on the government social security system as their sole or primary form of income are being pushed out of the rental market entirely by a barrier where some real estate agents either publicly or opaquely will not accept applications if rent costs more than a third of your income. We know from things like Anglica's Housing Snapshot that for some families that means there's no housing whatsoever. Where are these families supposed to go? They're going to be raising children in garages. They're going to be raising children in spare rooms, in marginal and insecure housing. And we know that homelessness services have had to start handing out tents. This is not the society that we want. What we need is secure housing. We need housing with multiple bedrooms. That's public housing. We need to have a waiting list that is quick, a system that prioritizes single mothers, for example. And we need sufficient public housing that everyone is housed. Everybody in our country deserves a house. From our perspective, single mothers, we know it's critically important for children to be able to retain the security of going to the same school for their education, for their futures. So we're asking the government to take the overview, not of working in partnership that's public-private that may save them investing, but to understand that after decades of underinvestment by federal and state government, it's on this government, it's on our elected officials right now to take dramatic action and invest. We have a Victorian election next year. This is a critical issue. and it needs to be taken seriously.